Hey everybody, Sigma has just announced a set of 3 contemporary series lenses for the Fuji X-mount. Now this long-awaited series covers 3 classic APS-C focal lengths, 16mm, which is the equivalent of a 24mm full-frame lens, 30, equivalent to a 45, or rounding up to a nifty 50 if you will, and a 56, which converts to an 85mm full-frame field of view. Now what's most notable about these new lenses is their price, often costing much less than half of their Fujinon counterparts. But that is what Sigma has always been known for doing, making great glass for less. Now these lenses are absolutely perfect for anyone who may not have the budget for say brand name glass, or who may not use their camera as often as say a working photographer. Now I will explain what I mean by that as we go through all the different ways that the Sigma X-mount Contemporary lenses compare to their brand name Fujinon friends. The first and most important difference is going to be the construction. Now, Sigma definitely shed some cost by opting for a more polycarbonate barrel, which is very durable, but not completely indestructible plastic, whereas the Fujinon lenses are nice, beefy aluminum. Now, the difference is going to come down to a few things. First, being durability. Now, if you're shooting every few days, then the chance that your lenses are going to get knocked around a fair bunch goes up. And the chance that one may drop or roll off a table also goes up. So the more frequent you're shooting, the more intelligent it is to invest in products that can handle some level of abuse. Now, if you're hesitant to spend, say, $1,300 on a lens because you only shoot when you travel or just as a hobby, then the Sigmas make absolutely perfect sense. In fact, with their polycarbonate construction, they're at times a bit smaller and a few grams lighter. You do, however, give up some of the features that drive people to Fujifilm products, which is the iris adjustment on the barrel. Now, filmmakers have flocked to Fujifilm and the Fujinon lenses because of this design, because it's how cinema lenses work, so it becomes quite a bit more intuitive. Now, make no mistake, however, that this design element is definitely a frill you can live without if you had to. The one thing I do prefer on Sigma lenses for sure is the focus wheel grip. Being rubber, it makes it considerably easier for me to focus by hand if I ever need to. The aluminum of the Fujifilm lenses is very slippery, and save for micro adjustments, bigger focus moves can often be tricky. Honestly, you can stop the video here and I think you get a pretty good idea of the most compelling differences between these lenses and what you're gaining or giving up with your choice. Now, Sigma is very good, as they've always been, by offering excellent glass at much more affordable prices, and that is their entire value proposition. So as far as I'm concerned, this video is done. But if you want to see how these lenses perform through a variety of metrics, then let's jump into that now. For a comparison perspective, I looked at the following: bokeh, breathing, flaring, autofocus performance, chromatic aberration, detail, and finally, color and contrast. To be perfectly honest, this is pixel peeping of the highest degree. Are there differences in these lenses? Absolutely, but these lenses are so close in quality that I doubt any user who these lenses are targeted towards would ever be able to notice a difference. Now, we could really just end the video here, which is a testament to the quality of Sigma glass. But I know that you know that I know that you still want to see this stuff. So here we go. The bokeh, or the pattern of each point of light when out of focus, can potentially influence the overall feel of the image. Now, if the bokeh is super clean and spherical, then it can help to make the image feel modern and commercial. Now, if the lens imparts some distortion on the bokeh, then it can bring more of an organic character to the image. In nearly every lens, the bokeh was practically identical. In a perfect world, you'd want a nice clean circle with no onion ring patterns. In this way, both lens brands scored very high, but almost none were perfect. There are 2 standouts to note here. The Fujifilm 35 bokeh has a unique oval leaf shape that might contribute to giving the lens a bit more of a vintage optics feel compared to the Sigma 35. Moving on to the Sigma 56mm lens, with its minimal focal distance being 20 centimeters closer than that of the Fujinon lens, allows you to get a bigger, more blooming bokeh when focusing close. Now, this is merely just a function of the focal distance, and at the same distances, the bokeh should be nearly identical to the Fujinon. Lens breathing is when the image experiences either a subtle zoom in or out when the focus elements move. This is much more of a concern when shooting video, as the effect becomes more apparent through the focal move. Now for photography, it can mean having to do a slight reframe, but otherwise it's not really an issue. The Fujinon lenses performed only marginally better than the Sigma, but worth noting that both the Sigma 30 and the Fujinon 35 performed the very worst for breathing. Inversely, in both cases, the 16mm showed the least amount of breathing. Flaring is both good or bad depending on how you want your image to look. The general consensus is that you don't want it if possible. Flaring can significantly reduce image contrast and cover up parts of your image. Flaring was comparable across both brands. On some lenses, you will have a pincushion flare, while others simply create a nice soft halo. The one standout was the weird flares coming from the Fujinon 35mm. Now I thought I had a dirty lens, and then I checked, and it was perfectly clean. But I cleaned it anyways, and the streaks still persisted. Now this may just be an anomaly with this one lens, and it's also not the Sigma, so it doesn't really matter. Fujinon lenses can sometimes be finicky with autofocus, where some lenses simply work better than others, agnostic to what the camera is doing. Regardless of this, I found that in these two sets of lenses, the autofocus was identical in performance. The only difference I could tell was the sound of the focus motors, which were incrementally louder in the Fujinon lenses. Chromatic aberration exists because light rays don't all converge on the sensor plane at the same spot. This is predominantly evident when the lens aperture is wide open. The minute you stop down, it mostly disappears across all modern lenses. Now, these lenses are no exception. They both display some magenta or purple fringing wide open, but disappear completely a stop or two in. In terms of edge-to-edge detail, both lens groups exhibit equal sharpness and detail right to the corners. Across all lenses and brands, there was absolutely no standout lens here, which is to say a great deal about the quality of these new Sigma lenses. This shows their incredible value, that they can be as sharp in the corners for a much lower cost. At risk of sounding like a broken record, I will say finally that the color and contrast of both brands are nearly identical, as far as I can tell, at least without any scientific instruments, though I did notice that the Fujifilm lenses were marginally higher in contrast, but I don't suspect that users could really tell under most conditions. When looking at portraits, you'd be pretty hard-pressed to tell the difference. Tonality all measured the same across both lenses. So to wrap up, if it's not glaringly obvious, Sigma did what Sigma does by bringing remarkably excellent glass to a market that's either not ready or sees no need to pay for brand name optics. Now, for those who may be working with lenses all day long or renting them out, well then I still think your best bet is to stick with the Fujinon lenses. But for the casual personal use, well, these Sigma Contemporary lenses will no doubt exceed your needs and expectations. And that's it. As always, thank you so much for watching, and please subscribe to this channel for more enthralling videos like this one, and comment in the comment section below. I'd love to hear what you have to say. For me, for now, I'm out. Peace.